your main point in life is not to pay back student loans. And I think that we have a lot of students, and I hear them, we need to debt forgiveness. This is the big thing. This because we have this huge debt coming out of college. Yeah, but your life can't be about consuming yourself with that debt.
Welcome to the Student Loan Podcast.
Here, you'll find practical advice on tackling student loan debt, paying down your higher education expenses,
and inspiring stories about paying off student loans. We're your hosts, Daphne Vanessa
and Shamil Rodriguez.
Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Student Loan Podcast by visiting the Student Loan Podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts.
This is not professional advice, and we speak from our own personal views and opinions.
The Student Loan Podcast is brought to you by Start New, where you can serve your community and get rewarded with tuition and student loan payments. To check out if Start New is on your campus, visit startnew.com. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Student Loan Podcast. Today, we have someone who is so interesting, so inspirational. We are really excited to introduce you to Glen. Honestly, his story, I think you just have to introduce yourself. There's no other way that people can really feel the passion. So please introduce yourself and share your story with our audience.
Sure. So I started out as an artist and then got into theatrical design as my real job. And then also got into teaching at universities. I was teaching theatrical design and production and basically using technology to tell a story. And I did that for 11 years. And I was an employee, right? I knew that both my parents were teachers. So all I knew was being an employee, and then I fell into academia. So then I was actually being an employee as a teacher. Personally, with my student loans, because I went through multiple schools, I had to watch that, and I kept that down enough. There was a decision, well, do I go to Cal Arts at $110,000 a year, or do I go to Kansas City, Missouri, and come out with about $40,000 after 3 years? And so not only me going to Kansas City for my mentors, but that financial burden coming out was also a conscious thing. So then I was teaching, and really teaching was, I hit a wall in how much money I could make. And I really felt stuck. And I realized I didn't have these entrepreneurial skills, and students were also coming to me and saying, Glen, now I've got all these student loans and I have a theater degree. I don't know how that's going to make money. I don't know how I'm going to pay off these student loans. I think I'm going to have to live in my car and work at Starbucks. I don't know how I'm going to make money. And I heard that over and over and over and over and over again. And I didn't know how to make money. I knew how to get a job. I had a degree in homelessness. I had a degree in theater as well. I had a master's degree in theater, which is live entertainment is a lot of times a broken business model. So you're paying to learn how to not make money. Like, that's crazy. So then in 2015, I'd made a documentary, and I had no idea how to get distribution for it. So I was really frustrated with where I was and where I was teaching, and my life was kind of falling apart personally as well. So I just picked up and I moved to Los Angeles, and I said, I'm going to find distribution for this film, and I'm going to learn the business side of entertainment, because I can't be stuck. I can't live my life stuck. I need to figure out what this is. So I started learning all these entrepreneurial skills. And in the meantime, my documentary was on homelessness, because I bought a house in 2006. And in 2008, I got cut back to work, and I wasn't going to be able to make my mortgage. And I became in jeopardy of becoming homeless. So then I started getting tied into this social need to what's going on in this country. So I had this homelessness side, and then I had me coming to LA on this entrepreneurial side. And I thought I learned all these business skills, and I thought my students that I taught, I now have the knowledge I needed to give them back when I was teaching them, because they didn't know about these entrepreneurial skills. And so it also is a solution. what I found, and I've worked a lot in the last 10, 11 years on homelessness, is we're really in the United States, we are lacking in family and community. And that is the core that's screwing everything up. But we're trying to compensate with being able to make money and capitalism and looking at the return on investment and looking at it as a math problem. And so I thought, all right, people can't depend on anybody else but themselves to not be homeless. So I have to get these entrepreneurial skills to students. And that is another way that I can work to try and curb homelessness. I mean, family and community, that's way back, and we can try and we can support, and I can really try to inspire people that way. But also, what do I do if I don't know how to make money? Well, there's this book here that has these skills that you may be able to pick up. And I say entrepreneurial skills are like vegetables. You know, when you're 18 to 22, Burger King is fine. You know about celery, you know about carrots, but really you can get by on Chick-fil-A, you can get by, but when you hit like 25, you're going, oh, I think I need to eat better. Someone told me about vegetables. And then that's what I view entrepreneurial skills as. I mean, maybe you're working for somebody, so you don't necessarily need them, but they are a great tool to have to get unstuck or to not get stuck. And kind of that's my story. And how long was that? Probably 10 minutes, a little too long, but that's my story.
We love it. We love your mission. You spoke about a book. What book are you talking about?
Right. So I have 2 books out there. One book is Things I've Learned from the Homeless. That was my first book. And then my second book is A Degree in Homelessness, Entrepreneurial Skills for Students, because I don't want you to get the degrees in homelessness. It's not good. It's not, I mean, you can get the degree, but then learn how to spin that degree into something sustainable for yourself after your formal education, because we've been telling people that the key to success is the degree. And I started teaching at universities in 2005. So 2005 to 2004 to 2015. And so we had these students come in, and all they ever had was get a degree, and that's success. And that's what I was taught. You know, if you wanted more money, you got another degree, a higher degree. That's what I was taught. And that's not necessarily true. So, people need to know that, but the formal education is not teaching that. They have no incentive to teach that, right? They have incentive to keep people going to school and keep people paying for degrees. Yeah. And that is the answer that will set you free, and that will not set you free anymore. You know, no. Maybe at one point that was kind of education, giving people education out of World War II, something we didn't have, really democratizing that education and working, but we've been chipping away at that. Other people have been chipping away at that for short-term goals, to the point where, you know, if the government is going to back your student loans, and it doesn't matter how much that education is worth, the school is going to scale that cost, and the student is never going to say, I'm not going to pay that, because it's backed by the government. That's later thought. And so you get into these situations where you're paying these crazy amounts of money for this degree that is not going to ever pay you that much to even pay back your student loans, much less what you're going to do beyond paying back your student loans, because you have to live too. You have to. The main part is
I've heard that,
not paying back your student loans, right? Your main point in life is not to pay back student loans. And I think that we have a lot of students, and I hear them, you know, we need to debt forgiveness. This is the big thing. This because we have this huge debt coming out of college. And yeah, but your life can't be about consuming yourself with that debt, right? You can't just focus on that debt. We don't have debtor's prison anymore for a reason, right? For a reason. So strategize.
In that prison.
Yeah.
That prison would be full today.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you know, I think, Glenn, it's good that you've really helped paint that picture of not having the student loan be the compass of your life, right? In terms of deciding which way you're going. So let's give some hope, right? Let's give some people some hope here. What are some entrepreneurial skills that you think that are helpful for students to take with them, right? There's someone listening on this podcast that might be like, what am I going to do? Student loans kick back in the end of January, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to make that payment. So what can we help them with, Glenn, to get out of that hole?
Sure. One, you can always negotiate a debt. Again, you're not going to prison. Your life is more important than the debt you have, right? So always relax. You're not going to jail, right? And so that's one. And then the other is really looking at a payment schedule and trying to strategize, right? Not just pushing it off. I've had friends that spend their lives being perpetual students, so they never have to pay their student loans off. They hope they'll just keep taking student loans until they die before they have to pay off, which is that's not a good thing either. For example, I'll tell you a good story for strategy. My stepson is a film composition major, and he's getting a graduate degree in film composition, but that is highly competitive. And no top tier director is going to hire you as an A-list film composer your first time out of college. That's just not going to happen.
Work for Hans Zimmer straight out of school.
Yeah. So what do? Well, there are a lot of entrepreneurs now making a lot of money and a lot of their living on YouTube now. YouTubers need songs. They need music. So maybe you, as a composer, you're not composing for a film, but you can figure out how to make a machine out of your composition skills and figure out how to monetize it so people need what you have. Right. And everyone needs original content. So there are people out there, there are photographers, there are artists, there are composers that are making a living now on providing content for YouTube videos and other videos, where that market didn't exist before because there was no way to aggregate it. There was no way to coordinate it. And now there are multiple ways to coordinate that. So you always think of, don't let your debt overbear your mind if you have that debt. And then you try and think of, what is the meaning of life? We're getting heavy here, but this is, really, what is the meaning of life? Is the meaning of life student debt? I don't think so. So you have to be able to live your life. You have to be able, the idea is you went to school to be a productive person in society. Correct. So the entrepreneurial skills let you back out and think, okay, how can I be a productive member of society? How can I enjoy myself and find people who enjoy the work that I could do for them?
Right.
Instead of being stuck. Where I was stuck, I had a job, and this job said, you are worth this much, as opposed to me looking at my own worth and saying, what can I offer people? What joy can I offer people that they will be willing to pay for? And how much is that joy worth? Because that's what you're really trading, right? You're trading giving people joy for your product. Or for they're giving you money to give them joy. And so those are the things that kind of just, the skills can free your mind, because entrepreneurs, there's never a can't, there's never not a way. There's always a way. You just have to figure it out. Always a way.
Agreed.
Maybe it's not the way that you thought it was, but there is always a way. And at the end of the tunnel, what is the meaning of life? Right? Is it to stress over finding a way? I would argue it is not.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
That's very, very good advice, right? Because it could be applied to so many other things. Are you stressing about the way to get there, or are you getting in the way of whatever the universe has for you, or whoever your higher power is, whatever is going to happen in your benefit? So I love that. I think so many people can relate to that and sort of think about trusting the process.
Yeah.
That as long as you're living your purpose, everything else will fill itself in. It's hard to think about it when you're going through it. Trust me. It's hard for me to think about it when I'm going through it. But you're completely right that you have to, at some point, trust that things are going to be okay.
Yeah. And the thing I give talks to students. My talk is called Learn, Do, Connect, Repeat. And it's on the back of my entrepreneurial skills, because that's the way I've found to succeed. I, by the way, did not connect too well. That was my faulting. All right. I kept my head down and worked hard. I didn't look up and say, oh, you're doing a cool thing that maybe I could work with you, or maybe you'd like what I can offer. And then doing that entrepreneurial thing, right? I kept my head down. So I got myself stuck. And then one thing I say is, capitalism does not care about you. You care about you most, and you need to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. Those three things, like that bridge of logic, keeps you above water. Because again, what is the meaning of life? Is it working yourself to the bone for an employer for a paycheck? And I was there, and I was destroying my health, and I was not taking care of myself. My employer didn't care about me. They needed a job done, right? I care about me. So I better take care of myself, because no one else is going to do it.
No, I think that's really, really well said. And I think stressing that importance of really deciding on what's causing joy in your life, right? What's the passion? What is it? And then balancing out those two, Glenn, is really, really important. And I think oftentimes, we've had great guests on our show, and we've heard stories of people saying like, I was just told to go to college, and like, doesn't matter how or whatever method, like, get it done. And then you're stuck with the student loan debt, and you're like, oh wait, so I'm supposed to like live too, in addition to paying this thing off? Like, wait a minute, I thought there was like this big deal that like, once I go to school, like I'm rich and I'm good to go. Now, unfortunately, that is that narrative that's unfortunately out there that people do fall for. But I think what I really would like to shift gears into here, Glenn, is another part, because you spend so much time covering homelessness, and I think it would be wise for us, especially here, because we talk about our student loan podcast is powered by Start New, which is a site that allows for students and alumni to exchange service hours for payments towards their student loans or tuition. And one aspect of it that was a big motivator for Daphne and I is serving the homeless. So I would just be curious to see what you think about that connection to community, and just really talking about that importance of what that might do for you.
Yeah. So let's talk about what that importance of connecting to community does for the students that are engaged in your program. Because that's the other thing, that capitalism will encourage you to silo yourself, to just work and not meet other people. It's part of that keeping your head up. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what connections you're going to make. So if you are volunteering to pay off your student loans, or you're volunteering, period, use that as an opportunity to impress people.
Yes.
Or more so to connect, to genuinely connect with people. And if you genuinely connect with people, you will impress them.
Absolutely.
I think that's the other thing that we tell students is, you have to impress this person. You have to impress this person. Stop. What is the meaning of life? You have to enjoy yourself. And if you enjoy yourself, entrepreneurs know this, you genuinely enjoy yourself and that interaction with someone, they enjoy it too.
Yes. Yes.
And you impress them. So that connection is something that is so valuable, because you never know where it leads. And people that are running nonprofits, I'm sure there are people that are hooked into your program, are movers and shakers in their own right. Absolutely. They are people that are thinking forward. They're trying to solve solutions, solve problems. They're they're not people that are just stuck. So by connecting with that brain power, with that motivation, you ultimately end up helping yourself. I come from a very blue collar background. Even though my parents were teachers, my dad would always say, we're from a long line of bricklayers, and bricklayers have their heads buried in the mortar a lot. Like they don't know how to connect with a contractor that actually builds the house, right? And so I think your skills of going out and connecting with nonprofits and helping the community you're in, and maybe the community that you will then grow with, can only help you in figuring out other options in the future to ultimately pay off your student loans. I mean, pay off your debt. That's a good goal. Just don't go homeless trying to do it. Don't kill yourself trying to do it, but make it a goal. You took out the money, you signed the contract. Yes, you were young. Maybe you got hoodwinked, whatever it is, but try and fulfill your obligations, but don't kill yourself, and keep your eyes open and talk to your community and grow. I think by meeting people in the community and helping homeless, you're building a community. And man, building a community is so powerful. We've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
We've gotten away from that message. The message is short-term making, make money fast now, right? How can you make lots of money fast now? That's success in the US. That's goal. And especially it's getting faster and faster and faster since, the thing we built after World War II has just gotten kind of co-opted and shortened and short-term goals.
Yeah.
And it's not stopping. So what people are finding is that's not sustainable.
No.
What is sustainable is community outlook. And with homelessness, we're losing people. At some point when you fall down, someone has to help you. And they can't be using capitalism as the way that they get compensated, right? You can't, if you have nothing and you need help, you can't go to someone that looks to get paid to help you.
Yeah.
Because that's capitalism, right? Our socialism in the United States is our community, is our family. So when you fall down, or when the homeless person that you're helping falls down, or when someone you meet falls down and you were there, you're all on team success together.
Yeah.
And then you can all succeed, instead of just cutting each other to take the money out of their pocket and run away to the next community, which is great for you in the short term, right? That's awesome, but it's not sustainable, because if everyone does that, we're just cutting each other left and right. Ripping cash out of people's pockets,
Yeah. No, that would not be good. Not be good, Glenn. No, and you know what, you just reminded me of, we just had Claire Wasserman on the last episode that we released. And I think it was really important what you were saying there with impressing and connecting with people as you volunteer. She ended up finding her CEO, who was a volunteer for her organization, right? And so I think it's really important to stress that. And I want to make sure the audience members, know that, that the advice you're giving here, you're hearing it consistently, right? Like you're not the only one giving this great advice that makes sense, because even for me, like my career before I'm doing what I'm doing now, was launched because I was volunteering as an intern and then volunteering on different other campaigns, right? Like it launched me in a fast trajectory. So I'm glad that you said that, Glenn. What are some of the other tips? You had mentioned the 4 items that you had that you help teach students. What are some of the other ones that you think would be helpful for people that are trying to figure out, what to do with their student loans? Like I said, payments are kicking back in at the end of January on your federal student loans. You may want to take some of Glenn's advice here to start thinking about what you can do in the new year to get prepared for those payments again.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that we have not been taught is how money works and what money is, because what we're told as a priority for money and as a use for money is something that benefits people that know how to work with money. That's it. So if we know how money works and how it should work, then we empower ourselves to be able to control ourselves. And it's kind of a bit of self-control. So a lot of my book goes in kind of into what is value and what is money and how does it slide? You know, I bought a house in 2006 for $395,000. In 2012, it was worth $185,000. And that spun my head. It's going, wait, it's still a house, man. It's an 1,195 square foot house. It's a thing. Yeah. It's a thing. And how in 6 years time or 4 years time can it half in value? I don't get that. So that's one of my first clue when I understood that I didn't know what money was. I knew what money was to people that told me what money was, but that's not really, that's what they need you to know. Right. So you buy more stuff. So like I had a friend that would just live paycheck to paycheck and if they could make the payments, they were doing well. Right. We hear that if you can make the payments, you're doing well. No, you're not.
No,
you're putting yourself in jeopardy. Right. So, but we have these habits because we hear that in marketing. We hear that just take out a credit card, just to, buy this for your loved one for
$9.99
holidays. Your wedding ring is like 3 months salary. Wow, what? I mean, so when you learn what money is and how other people view it and how people are using it and what they are doing with it, you really start to figure out a strategy for yourself, because then things like compound interest, right? Look, you could either be paying compound interest or you could be earning compound interest. The people that are knowledgeable earn compound interest. The rest of us slobs, we pay compound interest and we think that's the way we're supposed to be doing it, right? I mean, it's just like things like that where I just go through all of the logistics. The book is broken down into the things that will help you best strategize. The first half is the things that'll help you best strategize in your education, whatever your education is. Could be a 2-year degree, 4-year degree, master's degree, certification, whatever. It could be non-formal education, but it's how to best get the most out of your education. And then the second part is all these business skills, like on business and entrepreneurial skills. And they're kind of like just these pieces to a puzzle that we are not given. And money is a huge part of that, and what money is and your value, and being able to value yourself, and being able to find a starving crowd, like being able to find people that want what you have, and being able to position yourself in ways that you are desirable to others, and giving people, trying to figure out what a good story is, because people want the good story, and also figuring out how to give people what they want, but also what they need. Right. And sustaining that, and under promising and over delivering, because that leaves a good taste in people's mouth. It's just like these concepts that, oh, here's another one. For some reason, buying things is good, but selling is icky. We don't want to be right. Oh, I don't want to sell you something. Well, how can one side of that be good? And the other, and so, I go into that, and it's all these things that we realize we have been hoodwinked on. We've been fooled, because it benefits people that know really how business works. And business works best when you are ignorant. You as the consumer are ignorant, and they've grown a lot of consumers that are ignorant.
Terrible. I love what you said about sort of changing your reality, right? By not necessarily taking what society is telling you and just accepting it. Like, oh, debt is normal. But says who? Like why do we have to accept that student loan debt is normal? Why do we have to accept that school costs $45,000 to $50,000 a year, wherever it sits today. You know, those don't have to be normal concepts. And I love that you are encouraging people to challenge those ideas and help them open their minds based on what their purpose is and why they're here. So that is so important, especially for students and graduates and people who have attended college, who are just trying to understand, you know, like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? How am I going to leave my mark on the world? That's what really matters.
Yeah, I want that key something in. So one of the chapters is called freeing money from morality, right? Because this is how I had learned. So before we short sold our house in 2010 for $185,000, just okay, we're out, right? We had put a new HVAC system in, so heating and air, to the tune of $13,000. So that, you know, that was just another monthly payment that we did. But I was so beside myself that I was shorting my responsibility. I had taken out this loan, right? And I was already going to be shorting this house and making the bank lose money, right? I'm thinking, I'm the weight of the world is on me, right?
It must have felt terrible.
And then I'm thinking, okay, but I have to pay back this HVA system, which I won't own anymore. It goes with the house. I can't take the system with me. And the guy that was short selling, he's like, no, man, it's done. They've already paid. Part of what you pay is insurance for defaulting on the loan, because money is energy. Money is a game. Money is figuring out a return on investment. Money is taking a risk. And these people are all taking the risk, and they're covering risk, and they're asking you to weigh on your morality to lessen their risk. So they will play on your morality to keep you paying. And they'll easily do that. Well, are you going to pay? Were you going to pay? They've already covered, right? They're smart. They know that money is a risk reward. It's in, it's out, it's movement. It's more than just your debt, but to you,
it's everything. It's
your debt. It's your word. My grandfather is always sitting on my shoulder and he's like, what are you doing, boy? You know, it's like, how could you, and so you have to, but that just drags you down, right? I mean, yes, you should do the best you can, but it's risk versus reward. Whenever this energy, this money thing, we're taking a risk. People took a risk. I took a risk at $395,000. It was a bad risk. Should that define the rest of my life? You took a risk at $200,000, $300,000 for a student loan. Should that define the rest of your life? No,
it should not, unfortunately. But I do think a lot of people allow it to, sadly, because of fear, right? The fear of carrying that student loan burden their entire lives, fear of not being able to support their families, fear of being able to not pursue, the job that they want, right? It almost holds you back in such a strong way that normalizing it, talking about the debt, none of that is going to make you not be afraid that you have, six-figure student loan debt, for example. So it's a challenge that I welcome this discussion to sort of share with our audience how to overcome that mindset. And if you don't mind sharing, Glenn, we'd really like to know, what are your thoughts on overcoming that mindset?
Yeah. So this is another thing I tell my students. In this country, this is just a default. We don't even think about that. We're thinking about this. If you can make money, you are legitimate. If you cannot make money, you are illegitimate, right? As much as we talk about other people's success in different ways and look, I mean, it's seriously, this is also a point of contention with stay-at-home parents, because we have not figured out in capitalism how to monetize growing up a kid, right?
That produces for society, and that becomes
so,
the workforce.
Right.
I agree.
So it's all this, and because even though we pay, that a stay-at-home parent is legitimate, that goes against all of our training that says if you can make money, you are legitimate. And if you can't make money, you are illegitimate. So
Yes, that's true.
I was talking to just a friend yesterday, and people like, okay, so you're entrepreneurs, I'm entrepreneur. That means we're just trying to figure out a way that the things that we can do can be monetarily successful, right? I mean, we're just turning what we can do, and we have no rules. There are no rules. And a lot of entrepreneurial ideas, you go through a lot before you get success.
We know.
I notice when someone asks me what I do and I say I'm an entrepreneur, they want to see my books. They want to see how much money I've made, because if I can make money, I'm legitimate.
Yeah.
If I can't, I'm illegitimate. I'm a wantrepreneur, right? But then we do this with defining people in their jobs. If you have a job, no one asks you how much you make at first, but then they always ask how much you make, right? And so it's this hard thing that we are really negotiating with in our minds and in our societies all of the time. The same friend was talking about how people wanted to pick his brain because he was good at real estate, but then because he made more and they knew he made more, when they went to lunch, they expected him to cover the bill.
Oh, that's so,
So, I mean, but
when people do that.
And he was saying that they were from his church and he understood. And yeah, sure, you make more money, but it's, again, you're tying all this morality to money. And what is money? It's a transfer of energy. I was listening to a guy talk about artists and creatives, and they have a heck of a time monetizing their creativity. He said they're very productive. They do things. You look at art in culture, and that's a wanted thing. But what you have is then non-creatives moving in because they know how to buy that property up once it's artified, right? And then artists can't figure out how to make money. And he said, well, just start buying art from people. I mean, it's very simplistic because I know artists, and you can't just buy a piece of art, and that doesn't necessarily work. So it's a constant, and I'm almost forgetting the question you asked, but it's really this idea that you have to challenge what is legitimacy in front of you. What is productivity? Because your wife or husband takes care of the child, does that make them less legitimate? You really going to say that? Are you really going to, and are you going to have to defend that to other people?
I think people don't say it with words, but they say it with actions in society, right? Because
absolutely,
when you do that, it's almost secondary. And so whatever paying work you're doing, that people assume that that's more important than raising a human that's going to literally contribute to society. So
with my homeless work, so people think, well, that's a charity, right? And when we think of working with the homeless, it's like you're either doing it, you're either volunteering, or you're a nonprofit. Well, I'm not volunteering and I'm not a nonprofit, because in 2010, I watched all of these nonprofits run out of money because they only ever knew how to have their hand out for grants.
Yeah.
When you're a nonprofit, you get grants. Well, guess what? In 2010, the grants were drying up. There was no money to give. So if you didn't know how to help yourself, you couldn't help your population. And so I've been, my whole thing of trying to make homeless assistance sustainable is we need to tie it to business. And that includes me. Like, the idea is I get paid as a public speaker. You buy my book, and then that sustains me. That helps me continue the word and try, and people think, well, are you making money off the homeless then? Right. So am I and people automatically suspect me as a scammer because I don't fit those two molds of either volunteering or nonprofit. You know, I had one lady when I was doing my documentary, she said, "Why are you doing this?" I said, "Because I have to." And she said, "What, are you like in an original religious group or something?" And I said, "No, I just have, I have to do this." And she said, "Well, how are you funding it?" I said, "Well, that's a bold question for you." She said, "Are you independently wealthy?" No. Wait, you work other things so you can build this money, so you can make these projects, and then so you can make them try to make money for you later or some kind of sustainable. And I said, "Yes, because that's what needs to happen." Well, who does what needs to happen? You're an awful entrepreneur, right? You know? And so it's true, because an entrepreneur looks for a market. They look for a need. And I've always been, I'm part of my artist side, part of my activist side says, this is a need. We need to pay attention to this. And then people don't know what to do with that. They're like, "What? You're weird, Glenn. You're not making any sense. And I think you're trying to cheat me. So I'm going to walk away right now." You know, and yeah, we have these things in our heads because we understand the way the world works, and we don't realize we understand the way the world works.
Yeah.
We just make these suppositions, right?
No, you hit it square on the head. And thank you for sharing that, Glenn. And something that stood out in my mind that I think would be good to emphasize, let me know if you agree, is that your self-worth is not your net worth, right? Just like you said, just separating those two. We've had that quote before, and I think it's a really amazing one that I think you're hitting on in a really big way, right? Getting behind, like, what's the motivation? How are you finding joy? What's the purpose of why you took out student loans in the first place? And, you know, are you gonna let that control your life after you graduate? So I think these are all really, definitely emphatic.
Hey, you don't do that.
No, absolutely not.
That weight over your head makes you, oh man, I was such a miserable human being. You'd have no idea. That's one of the things. I grew up in a cynical family. And as an entrepreneur, you cannot be cynical. You hire people that are cynics. You don't go down the crazy road. You can't make that sustain, right? But as an entrepreneur, you need to be the cheerleader. You need to get people excited. You need to always think that your idea is amazing, because if it's not, then you don't believe in it, and you're the head. You have to believe in it. And so what you can't, when I was an employee and I didn't like my job, and I call it driving my own life, right? I was not in the driver's seat of my own life. I was miserable. So I was miserable to be around. Do you want to be miserable to be around? I don't think you do.
No, you're absolutely right, Glenn. And I think that's a really good way to kind of close it up here. But before we do that, Glenn, is there any message in particular that you want to send to the audience? Remember, like we said before, we have members that are in school trying to pay off their tuition, people that are out trying to figure it out. You know, what's the final word that you want to give to everyone out there?
Yeah, I tell this to my Learn, Do, Connect, Repeat students. I look them square in the face and I say, you have value right now. You have value. Do not forget that. You own that. You have to define what that value is, but you have value.
Love it.
Really well said.
That's so powerful. So powerful. Thank you so much, Glenn. We really enjoyed having you on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For more information on today's episode, visit the studentloanpodcast.com/episode 60. That's the studentloanpodcast.com/episode 60.